King Zelos is the final boss of the Great Danger quest. It can be fought with up to 10 people and it has a time limit of 24 minutes, and it can also be repeated every 20 hours. But in order to get access to him, you first must have visited the 12 Graves part of the quest. 5 of those will have mini-bosses, often called as Great Danger bosses. Then another 5 graves are spread across Tibia with no bosses or monsters to fight, and the last 2 are part of different quests. One through the mission of the Revenge of the Ogres in the Kilmaresh quest, for which you need to do the 6 puzzles in order to get access to the area with the grave, and then the other one is in the basement of the Cobra Bastion, for which you will only need to kill the first mini-boss to get access to the basement. Assuming you have access, then head to the Isle of the Kings through the boat west of Corlin. If it is your first time going there, you must get a family brooch to the NPC first from the White Raven Monastery quest, or buy one from Blackbird. And if you have done that before and still can't get access, it might be because you killed some monks in the Isle, so you are not allowed to travel until you pay a penalty. But for that, you must go all the way through the Banshee quest back to the Isle and then say Absolution to Costello. And in case it is your first time and can't open the door, say Fuyo to Costello. Once downstairs, just go north to the lever room for King Zelos. For this boss, you mostly need physical protection, but some life leech and death are useful in some parts. And the supplies you will use are mostly GFBs or fireballs, and some SDs, as well as potions of course. For the EK, just focus on physical protection and a fire weapon. The mechanics for this boss includes killing 4 mini bosses first, and the speed on which you kill those bosses matters a lot, since the longer it takes you to get to King Zelos, the more resistant he becomes, to the point it might not even be doable. Usually, most teams take in average 8 to 10 minutes to kill all 4 mini-bosses, and that's a good time, but after the 11 minutes and more, it starts to become harder, and if it takes you around 12 minutes to get to Zelos, then you might not make it. So it's good to be paying attention to the time from the moment you started. Now let's talk about the mini-bosses. The first room the team should go to is on the northeast. Here you will find Reward the Bloody with Rising Soldiers and Feathers. The soldiers will be on every room, and these are just there to do damage, so don't bother killing them since they just respawn. And for this room, the priority will be the feathers, since whenever any of them is alive, the boss can't be attacked. He will only become vulnerable when the feathers are dead. For that, there is a few strategies you can use in order to do this mini boss. The first one, which is my least favorite, is to trap him next to the portal on the west side and have the EK blocking in front, then everyone else also near the west wall, and using GFBs to the east to kill the feathers. The second one is to have people surround the respawn spot of the feathers to stop them from moving, and giving the sorceress the spot on the far north and far south to wave both. This is how I did it the most, but it gets harder in the EK and shooters to the sides, because then the EK must be used in XRS every time it switches, and it loves to retarget a lot. So to avoid that, you can have 4 people, usually 2 EKs and 2 paladins, trap the boss in the middle. This way, it reduces the chances of the boss beaming the shooters. This leaves one square open for the feathers to move, but they will still bounce into a player and go back. Doing it this way allows shooters to just throw GFBs in the middle, and it will hit both feather and boss. I recommend this as long only knights and paladins are in the middle. In the case you are a paladin, or even the mage is directly in line to the boss, you can play it safer and use a drowning helmet, since the beam from the boss does drowning damage. Other than that, the damage is low, and you will be at more risk from the rising soldiers. After this boss dies, then split up the team, and have 1 EK and 1 druid go backwards to the west room. Be aware that both of them should have a drowning helmet for this next part, and everyone else goes to the north. If the knight and druid are on the low end of levels, like 500 or so, then you should bring another person to help. On this room you will find the red knight, and he doesn't take damage from players, and the only way to damage him is by killing the vampire bloods next to him, as they explode and do a drowning exorcia around them, which damages the boss and the soldiers. So the focus of this is to position them next to the boss and then kill them. The damage can be pretty high when tanking the rising soldiers, which is why the lower levels will struggle, and if you were to not use a drowning helmet, then you will die to the damage right away. The EK should stay around the middle and move around to position the lavas, and the ED can stay near the portal in case he needs to go out to lose aggro of monsters. Or if you need to heal the EK at all times, then lure the monsters on him. This boss is a quick one, and it relies on positioning the lava as well. In the meantime, the rest of the team should be at the northeast killing the Magnor Moonbringer. This boss is also pretty simple, and it comes down to a damage check. Kill him with GFBs and waves while having the secondary EK tank the boss, or a high level paladin in case you don't have another EK. Once he dies the first time, he will split in 4 shards of Magnor. These share their HP, so it doesn't matter which one you attack, but be careful since when they die, they will do a life drain explosion with a range of Exori, which does almost 2k damage each. That can be reduced with using Garlics or Necklace of the Deep, and with those in Utamo Tempo, a EK can tank them just fine. But if you want to play it safer, you can split the shards with 2 on each EK, or just move away from them before they die. Just make sure to run in a direction without other players. Usually before the split, or roughly after that, the ones doing the boss from the southwest should be back with the main group, and then after killing this, take the west teleport and keep going west to the next room to find Nargle the Impaler. Trap this boss quickly and then attack him with GFBs and waves. Mages can summon fire elementals to do more damage and help with trapping him. But be aware that the Rising Soldiers spawn from the north, so either have the EK on that direction to rest them, or have paladins of tanked soldiers. Once he dies, he turns into a regenerating mass, which you need to kill within 30 seconds or else he will heal to full, and then you have to kill him again, which will cost you even more time and make Zelos stronger. During this phase, you should only use SDs and focus on attacking him only. If you succeed, then the portal to King Zelos will be activated. Go backwards to the east and take the portal in the middle. The main EK should go in first and grab Zelos right away, then bring him to the east wall and start tanking him there. You must be alert and always be diagonal to him, since the only dangerous part of Zelos is that he casts a beam that reduces 60% of the max HP, so a knight with 10k HP goes down to having 4k max HP, and he can easily die to a good combo from Zelos, especially if he has Rising Soldiers on him as well. In order to reduce the risk on the EK and everyone else, you want to use an energy bomb to the side of Zelos, leaving the square south of him open. Then one of the mages, normally whoever is closest to him, summons a fire elemental or a demon skeleton to take that open slot. What this does is that both of those monsters are immune to his AoE spells and won't die to them, but also will stop him from moving south and facing the EK. This way he will be beaming the wall throughout the fight, and then it's a lot easier. But only one person should be doing this to avoid summoning too much, because if Zelos gets trapped, then he will teleport to the middle of the room and could easily kill a mage during that, which is part of the reason to have the energy bomb, since that not only stops the summon from moving, but also stops extra ones from walking over it. And if you have a secondary EK, then he should be on the northwest or southwest of Zelos. Any player to his north or west squares can make him retarget and then is chaos, but also be careful as the Rising Soldiers often retarget the summons, and sometimes even Zelos might do it as well. When this happens, the secondary EK should reset and put it back to the spot, and then the main EK resets it back, or if he is the only knight, then he needs to do it himself with the risk of getting hit by the beam. Additionally, I recommend to not have more than 2 EKs, since King Zelos has a chain attack that bounces off players in close range and heals them a lot and quite often, so with 3 EKs it becomes much harder to do if all 3 are attacking him close range. But this also applies to paladins being on mass sand range, so if you notice that Zelos is healing too much, then tell people to move back. As long King Zelos is facing the wall, his attacks can be avoided easily since he has one AoE about a GFB range and another explosion that spreads outwards as he goes, which can be avoided by just moving when it happens. However, I still recommend to be on mana shield as a mage, especially if you are in close range, since if he happens to retarget, he can easily headshot a mage with his beams and attacks. Also, the paladins should be the ones tanking the Rising Soldiers, but be aware that they retarget off them, so just lure them back to the paladins when that happens. Lastly, for item drops, a few of them seem to be based on damage, so RPs and EKs have the higher chance of getting them. I believe this applies to the both of Cataclysm and Toga Mortis, but the Galea Mortis, Shadow Call, and Mortal Maze seems to be more random. None of this is officially confirmed, it is just what I have noticed from doing the boss so often. After you kill King Zelos for the first time, go back to Thes and report your mission to Jack Springer to get the Tomb Assassin base of it. For the add-ons you need the Shadow Call drop from Zelos and the Final Judgment drop from the mini bosses. With that said, that's all I got for this boss. Thank you for watching, and special thanks to the supporters of the channel, Tuna Hero, Thor the Slasher, and Night Start.